congenital choristomas, which are histologically normal tissue at an abnormal location, the most common location being inferotemporal limbus. And they are found in 1 to 3 cases per 10,000 population, and they are found as round, domed, pinkish to white, yellowish lesion, which may have hair or even liquid as a content. So how do corneal dermoids occur? They occur due to sequestration of pluripotent cells during embryonic development or metaplastic transformation of mesoblast, or their inheritance can be due to familial or sporadic reasons. So clinical features, they will present in the childhood, they can present with redness, foreign body sensations, or they can even cause cosmetic disfigurement, and the child can even complain of blurring of vision due to astigmatism. And if the limbal dermoids are large enough, they can obstruct the visual axis and they can cause amblyopia. So, grading of the limbal dermoids is based on corneal involvement, surface in the shape, and the conjunctival involvements, and they are graded into grade 1, 2, and 3, and this is also essential for management of the limbal dermoids. Coming to the systemic associations, the first common systemic association being Goldenhar syndrome, and here the child will present with bilateral corneal dermoids, mandibular hyperplasia, ear tags and anosmia, and spina bifida and hemivertebrate. The second common systemic association being Treacher-Collins syndrome. Here the child will present with lip coloboma, mandibular hyperplasia, abnormal dentition, and anticondyloid slant. Other rare systemic associations include Solomon syndrome, linear sebaceous nevus of Jalazohan, and Torsello-Lacazzi-Grosset syndrome. So the main purpose of our study is to describe the various ocular and systemic associations of limbal dermoid. We did an observational case series on 10 patients over a period of 2 months, and all of them presented with fleshy mass in the inferotemporal limbal region. All of them were examined thoroughly and multidisciplinary approach was conferred to them. Presentation 1, it's a case, 2 patients with Treacher-Collins syndrome were followed up in this, and this is a case which was genetically confirmed. Here we can see downward slant of the eyes with lower lid notching, corneal dermoids, microtia, preauricular tags, and mandibular hypoplasia. So we referred the child to ENT specialist as the child had multiple abnormalities in the ear ranging from malformations, and audiometry was also done to rule out the sensorineural hearing loss. And specialized screening is also required by maxillofacial surgery so that fixing of the palatine cleft or the cleft lip can be done. The limbal dermoid may be excised once the child is older with correction of the refractive error that may occur post-operatively. In presentation 2, we followed up 6 patients of Goldenhar syndrome, and all of them were referred to the ENT specialist as well as the orthopedician to rule out hearing abnormalities and vertebral abnormalities respectively. And these children may have associated Duane's retraction syndrome, hence checking if the extraocular movement stands essential here. Here in this picture we can see bilateral limbal dermoids with preauricular skin tags. These are the other children who presented with the OPD with bilateral limbal dermoids, bilateral epipulpar dermoids, and preauricular tags. In presentation 3, we found a 1-month-old baby having isolated limbal dermoid without any systemic association, and here on examination we found Rhoplast test was positive in both the eyes. And nasolacrimal duct occlusion is a common association in these cases. So, the main purpose of this study is to highlight the importance of looking for systemic associations in all cases of limbal dermoids for meticulous management and better quality of life of the patient. Drawbacks of our study include, it was a smaller duration of follow-up, only 2 months was we followed up, and very few number of cases were there, and this highlights the importance of a large number of cases to form a large multi-centric study for better epidemiology. So, we would like to conclude by saying that we as ophthalmologists need to collaborate with pediatricians, ENT specialists, orthopedics, neurosurgeons, and maxillofacial surgeons to determine the best treatment approach, which differs depending on the age and the systemic conditions of the child. Thank you.
How many of these patients did you manage?
So, 10 patients we just followed up, sir. And
Did you really perform any surgeries on them?
Sir, no, sir. None of the limbal dermoids were large enough to perform surgery.
What is the criteria of them? They have to be a large enough?
So, if at all they are obstructing the visual axis, then they have been needing surgery. Or if they are causing cosmetic deformities, or if there is any exposure large enough, if the child is not able to close the eyelids, then we can go for surgery.
Most of them were having cosmetic deformity. Cosmetic was anyway it's in the limbus, it's quite visible.
Yes.
What was the age group of a patient?
So all of them range between 5 to 12 years.
So 12-year patient would not have a prosthetic.
Yes, sir, but it was a little bit lesser. The diameter was less than 5 mm, sir. So 3 to 5 mm. All of them were between 3 to 5 mm, sir.
What about the astigmatism?
Ma'am, yes, we gave spectacle correction for the same, and the child was accepting.
After surgery?
After surgery, yes, ma'am, residual astigmatism was persistent, but we gave
Yes, ma'am,
spectacle
performing
correction.
surgery.
If you have any issues, then it is for astigmatism.